Hey, greetings everyone. Hey, how you doing? It's Sella here, and today I want to do a little review for this tiny film you may have not heard of. It's called Captain Marvel. You know, the latest entry of the MCU lineup film. That's right, I'm going to talk a little bit about Captain Marvel, the movie I just saw, and I wanted to give you my personal thoughts on it, things that I liked, things I didn't like, what have you. Just sharing my opinion is all. And warning, if you haven't seen the title, spoilers may be ahead, so if you haven't seen the film yourself, you should probably like hold off on this review just for now. Come back after you've seen it, but knowing how popular MCU films are, probably already seen it. So let's talk about it, shall we? So first things first, I've been a very emotional guy lately, and it's funny, I didn't expect any teary or emotional moments in this movie. But as soon as the first 30 seconds began, right after all those previews and all that welcome to this theater BS, the very first logo drop had me in tears already. They paid homage to the great late Stan Lee by replacing all the superhero footages and artwork with him, the man himself, Stan the Man, and it was a really sweet ode to Stan Lee. It left me in tears as soon as it happened, and thanking Stan Lee for the years and contribution he has to the imagination of everyone around the world, using superheroes as things to relate to. People who struggle, who even could be seen as gods. They are as human as we are, and I don't want to get too much into the Stan Lee impact just now, otherwise we'll be here all night. But no, I just wanted to say thank you, Stan Lee. The legacy you left us gave us inspiration and entertainment that's gonna last for centuries. But moving on to the actual film, I personally thought that the intro, or the first, I want to say like 20 minutes of the movie, it felt a little disconjointed. I know the whole point of why we kind of like go right into like Veers, as she is called at this point, and why she is helping out the Kree and doing all this thing trying to track down the Skrulls. But the whole like flashback sequence and like some of the visuals, it kind of gave me, I don't want to say Memento vibe, even though I haven't seen that movie. I've heard people talk about it. Or maybe some other movies that kind of like mess around with the pacing of some of the films, where it's like normally have a beginning, middle, end. Sometimes people like to mess with the reverse. Pulp Fiction, I believe, did that as well. But anyway, the point is, the beginning was a little hard for me to grasp on exactly what the normal settings is for this person, Veers, Brie Larson. It was a little jarring for me, and it did take me out of the movie just for a moment, only because of like how fast paced and how much the film wanted me to assume I knew what was going on. But luckily, things quickly got into the whole like Thor vibe when Brie Larson's Veers lands on Earth during the 90s, where yeah, she's an outworlder type person. She's not from Earth at this point, and doesn't really know the customs, technologies, or things like that of Earth. And with Nick Fury coming back, and they did a very good job de-aging him, I'd say. A lot of the fun and the humor came from there, and I really appreciated that. And I like the whole idea that the film was setting up like this kind of typical thing was like, oh, the war between two alien races, the Kree and the Skrulls, and the Skrulls are evil and they shapeshift into people, infiltrate, and they're jerks, I tell you, they're jerks. And so in my mind, I was kind of going like, yeah, okay, this is probably just another MCU film where it's like, you got the good guys, you got the bad guys, and it's going to be a predictable plot of like bad guys just want to rule everything. But I was actually I wasn't entirely surprised, but I was pleased that the Skrulls are actually not the evil bad guys we all assumed they are, the Green Goblin-like guys. Because the only context I really had for them, and I didn't really read the comics per se, but I remember the Fantastic Four, some of the cartoons, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 3. They had Super Skrull in there, and he was just like a hive mind guy who was like, for the Queen, the Skrull Queen, we will destroy your ends! Over the top villain-esque type thing, and I was kind of expecting the Skrulls to be pretty much like that. They were just straight up psychotic hive mind killers. I don't know. That was the best I could think. But the movie kind of brought them about as like refugees of war, and They were like propagandized, I don't know if that's the right word for it, that they were just straight up evil beings. But no, it's like they were just trying to blend in so they could lead a normal life, lead a peaceful life. And the Kree are the ones who are inciting this war. And I thought as a whole that was a really interesting message and a kind of a different take and fighting against the stereotypes of like a gruely looking alien race. I like stuff like that. I like breaking that kind of expectation, avert expectations, as some might say. I think that was the biggest positive for me. Any negatives I really have are just kind of like nitpicks or things I just couldn't get invested in. Like, I thought Brie Larson did a good job playing Carol, or Veers, as most of the first 2/3 of the film. But there was something about her that just didn't quite click with me. Like, I understood her struggles kind of growing up, forgetting about it, and then trying to piece together what happened to her. How did she come into possession of the Krees as a fighter alongside them? Where she got her powers, things like that. There's a bit of like fill in the blanks that this movie kind of wants you to do. At least that's what I got the vibe from. And as her personality, I get they told her that she's supposed to be brash and emotional and is an all-around hothead. And yes, throughout the film, she is kind of sassy and somewhat in control, but I wouldn't call her quite a Mary Sue. I don't think she is that technically. She had a hint of frustration. She wanted to know where she came from, things like that, but she didn't really have that wide range of emotional palette that I was kind of hoping for. It's really tough for me to say. I can't quite pinpoint it exactly, but she didn't have quite the charm as Robert Downey Jr. would have, or Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, Chris Evans, or Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Characters like that, it's like they kind of carry like a certain charm or personality with them. And while I like Brie Larson, I had trouble really thinking of her standing out much, but maybe that's just me seeing her initiated into this role. Time will tell to see like how much they're gonna flesh out her character. Who really knows? But apart from that, I really don't have much more negatives than that. I really like the music for the most part. It wasn't like terribly memorable to me, but when it had some of that 90s vibe to it, I really appreciated it. It made it stand out, and I guess that's one big positive I do like. I do like the set designs and the costume designs and all the visual stuff all around. Like, I'm a 90s kid at heart, and when I saw like the streets or the cars or really how the shots were set up, it gave me those 90 films vibe to it, and I think they did a good job simulating all that. I thought that was fantastic. And for the most part, the action scenes were pretty good. I would say a bit of the shaky cam, the typical MCU type thing. But overall, it was kind of fun to see the space battles in there. And I hate to say this, we got a bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy vibe there a little bit. In terms of like scaling and trying to figure out what happened, like why are the Skrulls after her initially, where she came from. I thought overall it was a really cohesive story. A little basic at times, but I think the movie knew how to have fun with itself. And when they had the cat in there, I was a little worried. People like Screen Junkies and a few other people I watch on YouTube were kind of hyping up, saying like, "Oh, great, the cat is!" And I was like, "Is this cat gonna be like a real in-your-face kind of scene stealer or something?" Luckily, no, the cat was not in my opinion. So overall, I think it was a really fun film. I definitely would see it again because I had fun with it. I don't know if this is my favorite MCU film. It really is not. I mean, I think the Guardians of the Galaxy is still up there, both the films. I like the second one better, but that's more for a personal reason. And this movie did make me curious to see, like, well, what's her ties to the whole endgame of Infinity War or Avengers and stuff like that. And to get more into the spoilery stuff, it is kind of funny how... Is this like the third or the fourth film the Tesseract played a major role in an MCU film? Because I mean, like, obviously we had Captain America, the first Avenger. We had the Avengers. I want to say it was mentioned in Age of Ultron, or it was shown, and obviously Infinity. The point is, like, this Tesseract thing really has spread its influence, and the powers that it gave to Brie Larson, or Carol, it's really interesting to see her powers, that she's able to like move very fast, kind of survive in space type things. And I remember they were kind of hyping her up to be like one of the most powerful MCU characters in the franchise. She can definitely land punches and destroy fleets and garrisons and things like that. So I'm quite curious, like, what's her role gonna be in Endgame, and if she's gonna like take on Thanos, even though, yes, we should know at this point that after Thanos, spoiler for Infinity War, I guess, used the snap, not as strong as he used to be, and the gauntlet is actually irreparably damaged, as the directors have said to us. We're gonna see how it all goes down. And the last bit I'll say, which, talking about the post-credit scene, or the mid-credit scene technically, is I thought it was actually really neat that we kind of got a glimpse of what happened after Infinity War. We had Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Captain America, Scarlett Johansson, a couple other members trying to figure out what was the pager for, the pager that Carol left Nick Fury after she went off to help find the Skrulls a new home. And they were like, oh, we tapped into the battery, but it just shut itself off. Well, turn it on again. We gotta find out who's on the receiving end. Why would Nick Fury have this? And then, I forget who turned around. It was either Black Widow or Steve Rogers. I don't remember who. I think it was... Anyway, that's not important. The point is, one of them turned around, and bang, bada, boom, it's Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, and she's like, yo, where Nick Fury at? And I was like, whoop, okay, she's just there. And I thought that was a nice little stinger. I'm hoping in Endgame they actually flesh that out more instead of her just kind of popping out of existence and like, oh, I'm here. What's going on, guys? I'm hoping that it'll be a little bit more fluid once we get into that. But overall, I think it was a nice little stinger. And at the very end, when the cat hacked up the Tesseract, I thought that was a really cute little scene. It was just a gag. It wasn't really supposed to tie into anything, because when Nick Fury returned to his S.H.I.E.L.D. office and the cat who swallowed the Tesseract when they were trying to retrieve it to store it, he knew he would eventually get it when the cat wanted to give it up. And we know, because this takes place in the 90s, that eventually Nick Fury will get the Tesseract to show one of the scientists from the Thor movie. I forget his name, I feel so bad about that. It was just a little throwaway gag. It did technically progress the story overall, but it was nothing really new. It was just a connector, if you will. So who knows? I think this was a really good movie, and to finish off on this review, I think the most intrigue for me right now is what caused Carol to, well, obviously not age, because clearly this was during the 90s, 95 if I remember correctly, and Infinity War was 2018, technically 2019 once we get to Endgame. Where has she been for like, what, 25 years? How come she hasn't aged one bit? Probably because her powers give her some form of immortality, I don't know. And what made her come back on such a dime, and like, does she have any stakes in the game? And my guess is like, yes, she does, because I'm assuming Thanos' snap, when he did it, it takes out half the population of all living creatures, including the Skrulls, who are trying to find a new home and recollect themselves. And I'm sure as she's escorting them, trying to find them a new home, half of them, or maybe even more, were killed off, and she's like, yo, what the hell? And that's probably tying into the whole Nick Fury thing, because Nick Fury called her as soon as that was happening, so she probably made that connection. Anyway, I could speculate all night on what's going to happen with the Endgame, but the point is, Captain Marvel, I think, was a really fun movie. I enjoyed it. I'm going to probably see it again, so if I missed any Easter eggs or things like that, definitely going to check them out again the second time around. Let me know, what were your thoughts on the movie itself? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Leave me your thoughts in the comments section below. I'm quite curious to see how people receive this film. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to check out my podcast videos, as well as go to patreon.com/Matt Sella to consider supporting me. I do art, animation, and I like to do video shows just like this, giving my thoughts, opening up to discussion. Alright folks, thank you all for tuning in.